right, cool. So I think we're at that time where we can kick things off. I want to thank you all for joining today's Twitter Spaces. We have a very special treat for you guys. We got a handful of folks here to talk about Testnet 3 challenges. What we're going to cover, we're going to be covering some updates on the Testnet side. And then we're actually going to be talking with a secret guest that we actually didn't really announce until today. So you guys are definitely in for a treat. So my name is Adam Wozni. I head up community at Akash. I'm also going to be your host for today's conversation. We have two fantastic guests on today's Twitter Spaces. We have Greg Osuri, CEO and co-founder of Akash Network, and we have Jonmichael Hands, VP of Storage at Chia Network. If you guys have questions throughout today's conversation, feel free to just make a speaker request, and I will get you in on the conversation with Greg and John. We have a lot of things to cover today. But before we get into any of that, I wanted to introduce our guests. So first up, I wanted to introduce Greg Osuri, CEO and co-founder of Akash Network. So Greg, feel free to jump in and do a quick little intro to yourself and let folks know what Akash is all about.
Sure, my name is Greg. I'm the founder of Akash Network. Akash is a distributed peer-to-peer market for cloud-grade compute. Prior to Akash, I founded a company called Angel Hack, which essentially became the world's largest hackathon, and with over 200,000 developers across 160 cities around the globe. At Angel Hack, I got lucky to be able to launch a few prominent companies, the biggest one being Firebase, which eventually got acquired by Google in 2014. And my passion, my career has been primarily in... Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're coming in good.
Good messages that people couldn't hear me. All right. Been a programmer for a little over 25 years. Began my career with IBM. Designed Kaiser's, first cloud architecture. I speak quite a lot. I am pretty active in the regulatory space. I helped pass California's first blockchain law. And Akash really came about because my passion for helping developers kind of manifested into us creating a platform that would solve deployments. Deployments is the process of taking your workload that you developed on your workstation to making it available to the wide masses, right? So the big challenge that I was trying to solve was, especially at Angel Hack, was that deployment platforms that were easy to use rarely scaled, and deployment platforms that were highly scalable were easy to use were not easy to use. So I started off on a journey to solve this problem, to find a middle ground where deployment platforms should be easy and scalable at the same time. Stumbled upon this technology stack called Linux containers, which would help us kind of solve the problem in a very practical way. Stumbled upon another technology called Kubernetes. This is in 2014, right around the time Kubernetes was open sourced, and formed a company, Overclock Labs, to take Kubernetes to market. And as we were developing, we ended up essentially creating a multi-cloud Kubernetes. This is in 2015. I spoke at the first Kubernetes conference, and as we were deploying this solution.
Oh, Greg, you're still there? You cut out for a second.
I had a phone call that came in. Can you hear me okay now?
Yep, you're good to go.
As we were deploying the solution to different customers across that own data centers, we realized most compute in these data centers was not used, 85% or so. And that's when the idea to create a spot market for compute came about. And when we're creating this, and when we're designing the spot market, we want to ensure that it remains open and remains sustainable. That's really when idea for keeping an open, sustainable a ledger-based system came about. So, we started off on the journey in 2017, and we finally launched the mainnet in 2021. And so far, we have a good north of 600 or close to 700 applications running on Akash with a set of 40 or so providers providing compute. So it's a fully functioning decentralized network.
Thank you so much, Greg. So next up, we wanted to introduce Jonmichael Hands, VP of Storage at Chia. Hey, Jonmichael. Just wanted to see if you could quickly introduce yourself and let the folks know what you're doing over there at Chia.
Yeah, hey guys, this is Jonmichael. Yeah, I joined Chia in May. Prior to Chia, I was at Intel for 10 years in our non-volatile memory solutions group, developing SSDs. I was the principal product manager for the NVMe SSDs at Intel. Yeah, and so I came over to Chia kind of right around the craziness of our mainnet launch. It's kind of funny. I realized that Akash launched last year as well. We're kind of peers in that regard. Chia mainnet launched in March of last year. And yeah, we grew from like about 116 PIB to over 30 exabytes in just about 3 months. So my job as VP of storage was pretty wild. We made a pretty big impact on the hard drive market last year, and so over the last year we've been kind of working on our sustainability and strategy. And for storage, I work with our storage partners like guys like Western Digital and Seagate and Akash, of course. And I think today was pretty exciting talking about plots. So Chia is a cryptocurrency based on a new consensus called proof of space and time. Our founder, Bram Cohen, is most famous for inventing BitTorrent, but he's actually been working on Chia since 2017. So yeah, proof of space and time is actually the first Nakamoto consensus since proof of work in the original Bitcoin white paper. But it's completely decentralized and peer-to-peer and permissionless, and we just use the longest chain rule, very similar to proof of work, but unlike proof of work, we use hard drives and underutilized storage space to basically secure the network. So you can just use like a basic hard drive, and you fill these hard drives up with cryptographic hashes. We call these plot files, and this is where Akash comes in this generation. But that's kind of the hard part of Chia. Once you have the plot files in the hard drive basically just sits there idle 99.7% of the time, and you can basically farm Chia and earn rewards on the network. And it's very exciting because it's really inclusive as far as like getting people to join the network. You can basically farm on hardware as little as a Raspberry Pi and one external hard drive. So the barrier to entry is much lower than like Ethereum mining, or especially of course very much lower than the Bitcoin mining. But it's a very, very exciting opportunity here with Akash to basically make it even easier for people to get started with Chia. So at our peak, we had about 400,000 public nodes. Right now, we're sitting at about, say, 210 to 220,000 reachable nodes. So we believe we're probably one of the most decentralized cryptocurrencies in the world. At least we think we are.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jonmichael.
It's funny enough, like I actually met Bram in 2017 while he was trying to start Chia at a party, and we were all like this 2017 batch of like projects, I suppose. And it's kind of amazing to see that we also launched the mainnet at the same time. And also, I think Jonmichael forgot to mention, Chia is a fully programmable environment. I mean, that's what ends up the programmable proof of it's a proof of work blockchain, right?
Yeah, you got it. It's pretty interesting. We kept the UTXO model like Bitcoin, but we have a new application programming environment called Chia Lisp, which enables, instead of smart contracts, in Chia you have smart coins, and the coins themselves have the smart contracts built into them. And you can do stuff like we have Chia asset tokens. That's kind of one of the first use cases. One of the other things we have is Chia offers, where you can do this completely peer-to-peer decentralized trading. It's not shocking, the guy who invented BitTorrent is now, going all in on decentralized cryptocurrencies and decentralized trading and assets for the markets. But yeah, we have a lot of awesome, interesting applications for Chia Lisp. Most notably, like the design is supposed to be much more secure and compliant and auditable than EVM compatible blockchains and Solidity. Obviously we saw anybody who follows any of the DeFi stuff knows how many hacks there's been. So the whole idea is to get a secure programming environment that can be used and scale for like high value monetary use cases.
Yeah, and Solidity was never created originally to be hyper scalable. It was supposed to be version 1, and that version 1 remained version 1. and the outcome is the insecure environment that we have. I'm really excited for Chia Lisp, and I'm actually super excited to see Lisp in a fully you know production grade like a use case, like because Lisp always has a beautiful like constructs as a programming language, but to see that in like real world has been very rare. But seeing Lisp adopted here in Chia is very exciting for me as a programmer. And I'm really excited to see the possibilities. Now, of course, we started with Akash as a resource provider, but I think Akash being a composable cloud and Chia being a composable programming environment, it's the possibilities are limitless. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, there was an exciting email that went into the Linux Foundation list for the Bitcoin mailing list about a proposal, for instance, to use Chia Lisp in Bitcoin as their smart contract language. Because
Right.
the post basically went along like, wow, yeah, it sure seems like they thought of everything and really did a good job of bringing this to market. And
Right.
oh yeah, it's UTXO compatible, so it could technically work on Bitcoin. But yeah, it's interesting to see. We're so excited now. It's nice that we finally have all these products. It was the first set of smart contracts and smart coins shipped, and now we're starting to actually see right now a bunch of random kind of meme coins and other random stuff on the chain, but those are quickly moving to higher value applications. As you may have seen, we announced earlier this week our partnership with the World Bank on this thing called the Climate Warehouse, where we're actually working to have a registry of carbon data for all the countries in the Paris Agreement. So, and that's all going to be stored on the Chia blockchain using this one of the applications of Chia Lisp. So, really cool stuff.
It's actually really refreshing because the whole conversation about crypto, quote unquote, because everything is crypto, and being environmentally not very friendly, and seeing something like Chia address that head on, endorsed by someone like World Bank, right? It's just a whole nother level. I'm very hopeful. And brand has an amazing brand name. So I think we have like two adversaries that we're dealing with right now in for Web3, right? One is like this whole environmentalist, and another one is like the whole open source folks, right? I think brand has a very solid like standing in the community, having created BitTorrent and whatnot, and Chia, addressing the sustainability, using a blockchain is a whole other thing. So I'm really excited for Chia. It's hard not to be bullish.
Exciting, yeah, and we're as much as Bram likes to dunk on proof of stake, the way you guys are actually using the chain in Akash is very clever as far as like actually doing the bids on chain for the deployments. And as soon as I kind of learned exactly how it worked and that it was all done on all the billing and everything was done on chain, I was really impressed.
Awesome. Thank you guys for that. So today you guys are joining because you want to hear a little bit more about Testnet 3 challenges. We actually announced our final leg of Testnet 3 challenges earlier today. So I hope you guys are able to check those out. But before we get into the challenges, I wanted to see if Greg could maybe do some quick recaps on the first week and this week in terms of Testnet kind of statistics, what's been going on, kind of like a high level update of where we stand right now with Testnet 3.
Sure. It's been quite the week. So we are currently in second week. We had about 13,000 signups in the first week, 13,600 something. And out of that, we have 3,800 completed KYC. So, and that's a pretty good, ratio. Considering that crypto we get a lot of fraud, but now KYC is actually really good. So we had about 2,300 submissions in the first week. Majority were for voting on inflation decay curve. Again, remember these submissions are required to download the command line and actually use the command line. So these are technical users working on command line, testing the testnet. A big highlight of the first week is we had 54 storage providers, right? All providing storage to the network, and we have another 200 some applications actually using the storage on the Akash network. And we moved on to the first week was testing all the functionalities of different features like inflation attributes, or the decay curve and the storage service providers and the persistent storage and the fractional UKT, just across the board testing, these features. And the second week was designed to bring real world applications, right? So since we are in testnet at limited capacity, we broke the challenges up into several pieces, and we announced that the first set of challenges is essentially launching Avalanche and Terra nodes. And so far, we have about 135 Avalanche nodes launched on Akash, another 117 Terra nodes launched on Akash. Right, that's pretty much the entire Terra network Akash can support right now if the validators of Terra choose to run on Akash. Now, this is an amazing proof of concept. Of course, this is still in testnet, but that gives a lot of confidence to actually run production-grade workloads on Akash. Now it comes down to the choice of the validators, right? So this gives us a foundation to build upon. Now, I think a good pathway from here would be like someone like Pocket Network, who specializes in running nodes, or even Infura or even Alchemy. Akash could become another provider, or Alchemy, and give the users, and if these platforms give the user a choice of running over a centralized infrastructure or it's decentralized, I think it'll be a fantastic outcome. But so it's been great. Second week so far, it's about 3 days, and we have about 330 applications submissions so far.
Yeah, the community, for anyone listening in that's been active in Discord, you can definitely see the level of engagement and participation happening in there. So if you have any questions about testnet until we wrap things up this Sunday, head over to our Discord to learn a little bit more. But with that, I did want to kind of talk up a little bit about the challenges that we announced earlier today. So there's some node challenges, there's some Chia challenges. That's why we wanted to get Jonmichael involved here. So I was wondering if maybe you guys could chat a little bit about the challenges for this week.
The main set of challenges are right? So this week we're going to go full on, Ethereum RPC nodes, Bitcoin RPC nodes, Chronos RPC nodes, and Cardano and Arbitrum, the layer twos, you can also choose a node that you want to run and run. There's all kinds of different prices for it. So it's a wide variety. And my most exciting thing would be Chia, because so far in the current Akash mainnet, Chia plotting was very limited because we just didn't have persistent storage or scalable storage. And with this testnet, I'm really excited to have Chia plotting done on Akash. So I believe BladeBit is the provider, if I'm not wrong, but
Yeah, I'm super excited about the challenges. So boy, when we started this, the idea of this proof of space construction is you have to be able to make a set of data in this plot file, and you have to have it be quickly and easily verifiable. You have to be able to obtain the proofs and verification of it very quickly, and you want to be able to prove to the network that you're storing that data, without being able to have that plot be compromised by security. And so the way that we have our proof of space construction is you actually have to write out these 7 tables of complicated hash data, and then there's back pointers and sorting and all this stuff that happens. And if you're doing that on disk, there's a lot of disk writes, and it takes a lot of time. To create a 108 gigabyte plot file on a standard desktop takes, say, 30 minutes to an hour. And so there was this idea that, okay, well, a lot of people have these systems that are laying around because they've done all their plotting, they filled up all their hard drives. Now their systems are just sitting around. They could use those to Akash. But higher end people, this whole plotting process can be done completely in memory. We have this plotting software called BladeBit, which is written by a developer named Harold. We actually hired him under Chia, so he's now on the Chia team. And but this whole in-memory sort, you need a ton of memory, right? You need 416 gigabytes of DRAM to do this complete in-memory sort, because you have to write out all this random data for all the tables. You basically find entries that match each other, and you have to do this complicated sorting and matching in memory. And then you remove the entries that don't matter, and then you rewrite the plot file, and then you write that final plot to disk. So that in now in memory, this can be done in, we'll say, 5 minutes, and that's really exciting. So now people with access to kind of fast internet can do this, plotting as a service and pay just for plots, just for the compute that they need, because the Akash provider, charges, just whatever. I think you buy a minimum block time of 6 seconds.
Yeah, 6 seconds.
So, okay, you spin it up, make 10 plots, you download them, if you have fast internet connection, maybe you can download them in 10, 20 minutes, and then you spin down the node. And the provider gets good utilization of the resources, because when the plotting is in use, they get high utilization, and they're making good on their hardware, and then the end user gets a good experience, right? They're downloading plots for very inexpensively and fast, much quicker than they can make themselves. And this could all be automated in the future when we start looking at a bunch of other people that want to start farming.
Oh, hello. Are you still there, Jonmichael? Looks like we might have lost his audio. Hey, Greg, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you all right. Can't hear
Okay.
Jonmichael.
Yeah, I think Jonmichael cut out a little bit. Jonmichael, you there still? Nope, might be having some audio problems for Jonmichael. Well, while he works on audio problems, I did want to take this time to kind of open it up to audience questions. And I do have a handful of questions to kind of kick things off. And luckily, the first one here is for Greg. And Jonmichael, as soon as you think your audio is working, feel free to
Nice.
jump in.
Did it bum me off?
Oh, yeah, something happened there, but you're back now,
okay. Well, I don't
so
know
go
what
ahead.
left off, but I just kept talking, I guess.
No worries. But yeah, so at this point, we did want to leave a fair amount of time to open it up to audience questions. So if you do have a question, just make a speaker request and I'll get you involved on the conversation here with Greg and Jonmichael. But to kick things off, I did have a handful of questions here. So starting off with Greg, kind of starting at the very top, for those who may be new to the testnet and to the Akash Testnet 3 here, could you maybe quickly touch on the importance of this third testnet?
Of course. So, Akash is a decentralized network. That means we don't control Akash, the company behind Akash Network, the lead developer, Overclock Labs, does not control the nodes running on Akash, right? So the validators secure the Akash network, the providers provide compute to the Akash network. Maybe we have few nodes that we bootstrapped the provider side of things, but we have 0 nodes that we validate with, right? So that means the network is a lot more secure, but also makes upgrades a lot more complex, because it requires coordination between these the node the block producers. So it's very, very important that we test the software rigorously before we can actually put it out in the wild. And all the old habits that we developed from Web 2 of iterative development and iterative pushes, has to be unlearned. And really rigorous testing is what we practice. And we do this testing by, of course, we have internal automated testing, but the best tests always come from the actual user. So we incentivize our community to participate in these testnets. And we do these testnets, every now and then, right? The first testnet we ever did helped us launch the Akash blockchain. The second testnet helped us launch the Akash platform. And third testnet right now is helping us launch the first major upgrade to the platform, right? And in first testnet, we tested adversarial conditions ranging all the way from getting DDoS attacks, all the way from zero fee attacks. Now we tested a lot of these, some of the conversations in Cosmos community about having zero fees and how that actually affects the security of the network and all that. All those we already tested, and that's why when we launched, we had literally no problem at all, launching the chain. And you see quite a lot of instability these days, with token launches, and the reason for that is not testing enough, right? So these testnets are very important and extremely critical. And as you can see today, we have 3,000 people testing the software, and try doing that in traditional Web2 software, which is unheard of, right? especially testing a boring feature like persistent storage, right? Storage is one of those like ubiquitous features that people don't really talk about. People just assume there's storage everywhere. And it's also amazing, and this also lets us, actually attract new community members, especially engineers that that are possibly attracted to the incentives that we provide, like $200,000, and get introduced to Akash Network, right? So the primary purpose of the testnets is to, ensure stability of the software, and the outcomes we generally end up happening is new community members joining community and contributing to the community. So testnets are a very, very critical part of the release process for Akash Network.
Yeah, it's been, as I mentioned earlier, looking into the Discord, you can just see the level of participation by folks. It's really, really exciting to see. So thanks for that, Greg. So I want to toss it over to Jonmichael. And as a reminder for everyone listening in, if you do have a question for Greg or Jonmichael, just make a speaker request and I'll get you in on the conversation. I see some familiar faces in here. We got Skynet, we got Akashalytics, we got Crypto Swede, Del Rey. So yeah, feel free to make a speaker request and I'll get you in on the conversation. So over to Jonmichael. So what kind of opportunities do you see with this week's kind of newly launched Akash Testnet challenges that are kind of centered around farming?
Yeah, I don't know where I cut off before, but the plotting is really interesting because it allows us to give access to people that have underutilized storage space but don't have the required equipment or don't want to buy any more dedicated equipment to do specialized plotting, and all they need now is an access to internet, and they can go along and make some plots and get their hard drives filled up. The farming is an interesting use case. So there is if people have persistent storage on on the Akash, and this is one of the testnet challenges, is really to kind of pathfind how this would work, right? There's some obvious challenges where typically a Chia farmer, once they get the plots on that hard drive, they're going to leave them on there for many years because it's very low energy, and to keep them powered on, and then they are earning farming rewards over time. And now, if to do this, there are some opportunities for this persistent storage if there are vendors that have like a bunch of extra storage, but it's say only for like 6 months or something. Maybe they could offer that for cheaper and they don't want to mess with it. They can just put that up onto Akash and then have somebody, a farmer, who will actually utilize that storage space to earn rewards in the network. And then maybe when they're done with it, they can find a way to copy it off and offload without having to get hit with a big egress cost like they would on AWS. And then they get the best of both worlds. They can kind of like fill up these drives in the background, and then as soon as they need to dump it down, they can just take this persistent storage and then link it up to some colo and offload it. The other opportunity is, we will see times like, last spring may have been kind of this like unicorn one-time kind of thing, right? Where the price of Chia at launch, because there was like almost no liquidity in the network and there wasn't very many coins in circulation. All the coins in circulation were just from the farmers, and then there was a massive misbalance on network difficulty, very similar to hash rate in Bitcoin versus versus the rewards. And then obviously people went out and rushed out and bought a bunch of hard drives. But there was like a good 2-month window where it would have been actually profitable to farm Chia on anything. That means an SSD, on cloud storage, and so there may be these small windows of times where the profitability gets really interesting and people will want to go arbitrage that. And people that have excess storage, but don't want to give it up forever, maybe that's a good opportunity for them on this Akash persistent storage for farming. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of use cases, and I think the testnet will be about kind of pathfinding, how do we best utilize those. So one of the challenges is just literally, what's the most efficient way to set up an SDL to get the plots from BladeBit to the persistent storage. And the people that figure that out are going to get, I believe, $1,000 if they just even figure out. And I'll give people a hint. It's not very many lines of code on the current SDLs.
No cheating, Jonmichael.
No cheating, yeah. No cheating.
Very cool. So passing it back over to Greg. So as you mentioned earlier, last week we had over 2,300 submissions for challenges. That's a pretty big number, mostly centered around some of the new features that we've unlocked in this testnet. So for this week and kind of until testnet is over this Sunday, and mark your calendars, everyone, Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's when testnet's all said and done. What are some of the things you're most looking forward to seeing from our community that's participating in testnet this week?
So like capabilities demonstration, right? Like this is like this is the first time we're able to support the RPC and node infrastructure, right? I'd love to see uh, nodes that we haven't listed, like Ethereum's in the layer ones, and potentially even, it'd be great to see integrations. Like I love to see Pocket Network or maybe even a node as a service built on top of Akash, right? Like, I mean, it's a pretty UI maybe, and maybe even like see compare costs. Like how much does Infura charge for running a Ethereum RPC node versus Akash charging, right? I mean, I think it's exponentially lower. And ideally, will be fantastic if wallets like MetaMask actually gives you an ability to launch RPC nodes that's dedicated for you and that you know for sure is secure enough on Akash directly from the wallet. I mean, that's what I like to see from an integration standpoint. And Akash is perfect for that, right? Like, uh, yeah, so everybody gets an RPC node. So I think use cases that really take composability to a level where it benefits users and solves for problems that they're facing currently would be a great outcome.
Thank you for that, Greg. And I'm just going to mention real quick, Greg, the last answer, you were kind of cutting out a little bit, so just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, the
cool.
answer, what I'd like to see is more deeper integrations like Akash being a permissionless, non-custodial hosting platform. One of the best use cases is, solving for current challenge. The current challenge happens to be RPC scalability, like RPC servers slowing down, and RPC servers, people not being able to test these RPC servers. I mean, not able to trust them, right? Like, it'll be great to like have like verified images, container images that users can directly host from wallets, right? Say if you're running on MetaMask, you should be able to like schedule your own RPC server in the country of your own choice, right? Now we have like all kinds of like censorship happening at the RPC level, right? People think MetaMask is centralized and all that. I mean, MetaMask is just a client, right? That's on your browser. There's no centralized or decentralized. I mean, it's non-custodial, right? But there's a lot of confusion like about MetaMask, or there's this narrative that MetaMask is actually like censoring you. It's not, right? It's the RPC servers. And RPC servers, they have to obey the law of the land, right? Like whatever, wherever the servers are hosted, they should obey the law. And I think like giving like ecosystems like users to host their own RPC servers, of course, in compliance to whatever country they're operating from, is a great, it's a great use case for Akash, right? So I'd love to see more deeper integrations with wallets, especially Ethereum wallets, where they can be compliant at the same time, uh, you know, at the same time aligned with the values that they began with. Akash is an amazing platform for making that happen.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. So I have one more question here for Jonmichael, but for folks listening in, if you do have questions, just make a speaker request and I'll get you in on the conversation at the end of this one. So Jonmichael, a lot of people have been really excited about the Chia challenges. You can just kind of see all the chatter in our Discord about it. Not to scare you, but I was hoping if you could maybe dive a little deeper on the new on the Akash testnet features and maybe the impact specifically to Chia instances.
Yeah. So before there was kind of a limitation, I believe, and again, I'm not the Akash expert, even though I am running a provider now, and with lots of help from the Akash team to get my provider up. But before we use this plotter called Mad Max, which the Chia plotter is a disk-based plotter that basically uses temporary or ephemeral disk space to basically do this sorting to create the plots. That's a little challenging for a provider just because they have to basically have like an SSD that has enough endurance, which, for people running typical servers or enterprise stuff, this is not a big deal, but it's not stuff you want to do on consumer type hardware. So basically the Akash team set up this Chia provider plotting equals true attribute for providers so they could basically tell the Akash network, yeah, we have systems that are ready for, plotting. So today that plot takes about an hour to do with 8 virtual cores and I think 4 gigs or 6 gigs of DRAM. So not too much resources, but I mentioned that plot can be done completely in DRAM if you have a system that is capable, that has 416 gigabytes of DRAM, which is, again, this is not something that would ever be found on a consumer type system. It's even, well beyond the DRAM footprint of like a high-end desktop or a workstation. But there's lots of people that have these $5,000 to $10,000 servers that have all this DRAM in them, and it's much faster and more efficient as far as like total amount of energy utilization required to create these plots, and just time, of course, takes like 5 to 10 minutes. So now the new instance types on the testnet will allow you to actually go all the way up to 512 gigabytes, and I believe much higher cores. Although with BladeBit, we are kind of recommending somewhere between 32 and 64 virtual cores is probably the sweet spot. You'll have to play around with the different providers on the testnet, but we get kind of the best times. And so the new instance types, that it kind of unlocks that higher DRAM footprint that'll allow you to run this BladeBit plotter.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you. Go ahead.
I did see some early benchmarks. I think on the testnet, one of the providers, I believe it's Lumen, you can process a K32 plot in like 12 seconds using DRAM. Have you seen that, Jonmichael?
Oh, I think like it's somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes is probably where it would land.
Minutes.
Yeah, but that's real fast, right? Just to kind of put this in perspective, like how secure our proofs of space are for Chia. Like when we launched mainnet, a year ago, it took like 20 hours on a typical system to create one plot.
Oh, wow.
And so the only way to do it, you had to run a bunch in parallel, and you had to buy these like super high capacity NVMe SSDs, and it was really, really hard. So it's much easier than it was, a year ago, which, because obviously the software has matured quite a bit. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Jonmichael. So we do have an audience member. Looks like they just jumped in. Crypto for Chris. Feel free to introduce yourself and ask your question for Greg and Jonmichael.
Yep. Hey, Michael. Sachin here. I have been with Akash since around 1.5 years. I've been holding a nice bag with me. And you might be aware that nowadays people are moving towards nodes and then VPS services. So recently I got into one of the nodes project, and which requires a 24/7 running computer, and I was expecting Akash to be there. Like, it's an on cloud service, right? And it should be straightforward. It's simple. You just provide a RAM and a computer processing power, and it should be just with a one click. I was expecting that, but I didn't find it. So what are you doing that you market your product in such a way that any node service or any VPS service, because down the line people are investing in the node projects, they are investing in running their own servers, so they support the project. Like, we have Gala music coming in, right? I also have a subscription for that, and I want to use Akash because I'm a genuine and a loyal holder of Akash, and I want to support it. But there is no way I can find anywhere on your network or on your site that I can just go directly. Okay, I have bought the license for this. I go to Akash, start a service, and activate my node. I can't do that right now. What are you doing down the line to achieve this?
I'm sorry, is your question on how to become a provider on Akash, or how to run an application on Akash?
Akash is nothing but he provides an on-cloud computation service, right? For any servers to be active, we require a computer power, a RAM, and a hard disk or anything. On-cloud service, right?
Yeah, Akash is a market. Yes, so you can get like you can request for X amount of compute,
Yeah.
CPU, memory, and you can pretty much run anything, any Docker container, right? Yes, it's a container service. Yeah. Hello.
I think he's muted. Crypto for Chris. You can unmute if you have any follow-ups.
Yeah. Okay. So see, I just want to say I have bought Gala nodes, for example. I have a license for
What
that.
is Gala node? I don't know what that is.
Gala music nodes is well, you might have heard of the Gala games.
No, I have not heard of Gala games.
Okay, so
is it a software? Is it a container?
No, it's a kind of, it's another token where people can like musicians, they're not paid now, whereas down the line when they support to the Gala nodes, they get paid directly. There's a different concept, but for this to happen, you should
So
have
it's
a
a node.
24/7 running.
It's a node software that you
Yes,
can run on Amazon. Can
exactly.
you? Okay.
It
So
is a
can you
kind of,
take that node software and put it in a Docker container?
yeah, I want to keep it that in Akash.
Yes. In order for you to run that in Akash, you need to take that software, the node software, and
Yeah.
package it up into something called a Docker container.
Yeah.
And if you go to docs.akash.network, there's plenty of documentation.
I agree. Yeah, that's good that you're saying it right now, but I can't find such straightforward. Is because see, I like for a no bad, I bought license. I want to run it on Akash network. Is there anything that will tell me directly? Okay, go there, click these 4 steps, and that's it. You're done.
So
Your service is running. I don't find anything on a network.
Right. So Akash, we don't do Dockerization because that's a very common activity, right? Gala should themselves have a Docker container, right? If they don't have one, you should definitely go ask them where you can find Docker. But once you have a Docker container, there's plenty of documentation on Akash website, Akash documentation website that tells you how to take a container and create a configuration around the container called SDL and deploy that onto Akash Network. And there's also another piece of software which I highly recommend called Akashalytics. Akashalytics lets you do host that without using a command line straight. And there are hundreds of applications that use Akashalytics today to run on Akash.
Okay, but yeah, I now you have given me this information. I would go and look into it. But
if you have
this
trouble,
is just a
I
suggestion.
suggest.
Yeah, this is a suggestion for your team. Like, you should be start on looking for any projects coming in. See, Gala, I'm surprised that you're not aware of Gala, because there's one of the famous gaming project and in top 100, and they are providing nodes where people can directly run their own servers at their home, and then they can earn rewards on that one. And running server at home means running a node where we can use on cloud services, because I'm also in IT. I know how on cloud services work. So I was expecting the same thing. So if you market in that way, you will have a lot of people interested in this.
Yeah, we're definitely going in that direction. Like, we have Ethereum now, Avalanche, Terra. We have, I don't know if you're following the testnet. You've essentially listed at least 10 L1s. So we're starting from the top and going down the list. If Gala is one of the top 100, it should be on our radar. That we should be with our research team. We do, so it's probably on our roadmap somewhere.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. See, I understand you're looking at Terra and Ethereum, and that's good. That is the layer one solutions. But we have categories also, right? Not just layer one solution. People are now moving towards gaming. What top 10 you have in gaming right now in your scenario where you're trying to use your
So it
service?
depends. Depends. We do have Minecraft, but thank you for the suggestion. We'll definitely take that into consideration.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Crypto for Chris. I'm actually, real quick before you jump off, I'm always curious, where are you calling in from, Crypto for Chris?
I'm from Australia.
Oh, awesome. I think you're maybe the first Australian community member to jump into the Twitter space, so I appreciate it. Thanks for your question here.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So wanted to open it up to any other folks on the call. If you have questions about Chia, you have questions about Akash or the testnet, feel free to make a speaker request and I will get you in on the conversation. And while we're waiting for those folks, maybe my final question for Greg and Jonmichael. For folks listening in, where can people go to get additional support or answer some questions about Chia or Akash? And we'll go over to Greg first.
Obviously, a Discord would be a great way. I mean, there are two essential ways to get your questions answered. A forum is more permanent. I mean, you can get, long-winded answers, I think more thorough answers if you post a question on a forum. To do that, go to forum.akash.network. But if you want an urgent, pressing question, if you have one, you can go to our Discord, discord.akash.network, and you'll see plenty of activity there. And I believe there's a Chia room somewhere as well in Akash Discord that you can get Chia specific questions answered.
Cool. And we have one more speaker, but I'll go back over to Jonmichael real quick before we introduce Saeed. So Jonmichael, where can folks go to kind of get some more support or information about Chia Network?
Yeah, chia.net is where you can find everything. We all hang out on this app called Keybase, which is a chat app. It's kind of like a Slack, but it's owned by Zoom. And their whole idea is identity and security first, So it's maybe not as slick as the Discord or Slack, but it's super secure, and when on the identities who you're talking to, which is important to our community. So we are all hanging out in the Keybase most of the time, but I have Discord, and I'll definitely be hopping in the Akash Discord and the Chia channel and try to answer as many questions as I can. For Akash folks that want to dive into Chia.
Awesome, thank you, Jonmichael. And yes, I'm on your guys' Keybase. It's a great little community you guys built up, and it's a great application too. Really big fan. Actually, our other person left, but we do have one question here coming in. Looks like from Digital Spaceport. Great Twitter name. I'm just going to add you to the speakers list, and we'll get you in on the conversation. It's not letting me approve for some reason, Digital Spaceport. I'm going to try one more time here. Yeah, it's not letting me approve. So Digital Spaceport, I apologize. I'm unable to get you in for some reason. It's not approving your request. So if you want to try real quickly, maybe take out your speaker request and then try one more time, and we'll try to get you in on the conversation.
Yeah, I found that it didn't Twitter Spaces didn't let you join from the web app back in the day. You had to join from a phone.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. Digital Spaceport, which again, love the name. I'm not sure if you're trying to join from the application on your mobile device or on a browser, but it does have issues. Twitter does with getting people in. Oh, nope. I'm going to try one more time here, and I think it's working. Oh, there we go. We got it to work. Awesome. Digital Spaceport, feel free to unmute your mic, introduce yourself, and ask your question for Greg and Jonmichael.
Hi, guys. I just had a quick question here about if you have any statistics around what the provider uptake currently looks like for being a Chia full node operator. And also, JM, I know there's some changes around BladeBit that are in the works. Will those be pretty much immediately integrated into the Akash platform? Really looking forward to the Akash network and putting quite a bit of compute resources on it myself also. So good work, guys. I'm going to mute out and just listen in.
Yeah, so there's the one question about I think there's a question about the provider revenue for if you're a provider, how much you expect to make or how much are we seeing. For Chia right now, it's pretty light right now. There's not a huge demand, but we're trying to, on the demand side, actually link up with there is a lot of people that are looking to still do plotting and scale because it's an interesting timing. Right now, farming Chia is actually more profitable than Bitcoin mining and Ethereum mining, especially if, and hard drives are kind of at rock bottom prices right now and pretty easy to get. So we do see some people come into the community to start farming. So we'll probably see something there pretty soon. But right now there's not a huge demand. So running I run a provider for Chia, and really right now we're just trying to get more people on the platform and start using it and kind of incentivizing people with inexpensive plots. And then the second question is around software developments on when we have there is a new version of BladeBit that will be less disk resource utilization. Less DRAM utilization, more disk utilization. And we'll have to play around with that on different providers. But yeah, that'll absolutely be something we can go integrate in super easily. That's one of the really cool things about the Docker container that runs the Chia instance on Akash is really super simple. It just goes to Chia GitHub, downloads Chia, compiles the plotter and starts plotting with whatever the farmer key and pool contract address that somebody provides. So it's super simple. We can hack it up and use all the latest software when it comes in.
Well, that's great to hear. And can I ask really quick if there is a way to actually designate it for your own internal use, or does that feature that's kind of not the exact understanding that I have of how the Akash network really works, kind of being a provider model network. But is there a way to maybe add a flag and then you have your own plotters running? That way you can scale on one unified platform for doing a lot of different cryptos?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that, because I was thinking about this the other day. If you're running a provider and you wanted to run your own workloads into the Kubernetes cluster, you totally can. You can just write a Docker container and then run it on your Kubernetes cluster and say, I want to scale it to whatever, 1,000 instances, wherever, however many cores you have. So you can definitely take the GitHub stuff that they have on Akash and kind of play with it as far as running in Kubernetes. I'm not a Kubernetes wizard. I'm barely functional and running my cluster. So,
that is the original vision of Akash, right? And the Akash vision was people that have compute. It's about sovereignty. We want people to own their own compute because that's the best possible deal you can get compared to running it on the cloud. But when you have to scale up or you have spillover requirements, you should be able to connect to the network, right? Or when you do not have demand on your own, cluster, you should be able to offload that supply to the network. So the real vision is to create a truly peer-to-peer compute network. And what you're suggesting is a perfect use case for Akash. So you're running a Kubernetes cluster, and if you're skillful and you're experienced and you know what you're doing, yeah, absolutely. Plot Chia, and when you're not plotting, or when you have excess capacity that you plan on using, just offload that to Akash. Or if you need excess capacity, go to Akash, right? Or excess capacity, go to Akash. So it's it's to create a truly hyper efficient usage of resources. I think that's the best model.
That sounds great. And I'll be sure to look you guys up on your Discord and ask some questions there more in depth about specific implementations and things like Proxmox, because currently I'm running a large Proxmox cluster. And I think I could actually just spin up possibly in LXC, but possibly I would need to deploy on the side like Docker, right?
That's exactly what people do right now as far as a provider setup is, running a Proxmox cluster and then get a VM where you just install something bare bones where you run a Kubernetes, node. I run Ubuntu with micro K8s. You can use Rancher. There's some other methods to set up your cluster, but yeah, I don't know how there's probably some fancy Kubernetes speak, but micro K8s in Ubuntu is basically just a one line install, and it just totally works. Then you have basically a full Kubernetes cluster up and running, and then you can start submitting workloads to it, or the provider setups are that's one more step, but you run these Helm charts to basically install the provider stuff to it. But there's a good opportunity to basically get the make the compute more efficient.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jonmichael and Greg.
Also, reach out to me if you can get the help you need on Discord. My Twitter is open. Digital Spaceport.
Cool. And
will do, guys. Thanks a lot for that.
And Digital Spaceport, this is just for my benefit. How did you come up with the name? I'm such a fan of the name Digital Spaceport.
So I run a YouTube channel, and my wife does a lot of marketing, and she was like, bit by bit tutorials is a little bit too, it's open to interpretation. And she was like, we're thinking about spaceports. And I didn't actually, because I love the spaceport that we've just opened up in South Texas here. And if you're not familiar, actual spaceships are launching in South Texas, which is pretty freaking sweet. And so the FAA and the the government has created something called Digital Spaceport, and I have like overtaken the SEO for that. And I've gotten an email asking me, like, would I be willing to give up the SEO value of Digital Spaceport, the website and stuff from the government? Like,
Wow, that is wild.
yeah, because they sell, I guess, rights to digital spaceports are going to be like a thing. And I just kind of thought in the future, and my wife really saw that like fit, and she was like, digital spaceport is exactly, you're dealing with a bunch of guys usually who are like win Lambo, win moon. And she was like, so how do you get to the moon? Spaceport. And we've been talking about like South Texas and going down sometime to watch one of the launches, and it just kind of all meshed up at the same time.
Wow, that's fantastic and perfect for the Cosmos ecosystem too. So great work on the name there, and thanks for calling in. I really appreciate it. And with that, I think we're gonna, unless there's any other audience questions, make a speaker request or speak now, forever hold your peace. With that, I think we're gonna wrap up today. So as a reminder, to find out more about Chia Network, Chia plotting on Akash, and Testnet 3, head over to our Twitter bio, and you'll see a link tree URL where you can get all the links to everything Akash and Testnet. We are going to be doing a Testnet office hours, and this is probably helpful for you, Digital Spaceport, tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Akash Discord, where we'll be giving a few lightweight Testnet updates and answering any technical questions you have about any of the challenges that we're currently running. And then finally, Testnet ends March 20th, Sunday night at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. So make sure to get all of your submissions in by that time to be eligible for the rewards. But with that, I want to thank all of our attendees for jumping in here today at Digital Spaceport. Greg, Jonmichael, you guys were fantastic. And stay tuned. We're going to be doing one final kind of Testnet 3 review next week, kind of talking about all the stuff we learned and everything that was accomplished over the past 2 weeks during Testnet. But I appreciate everyone for being a part of this, and stay tuned. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.